When a waitress served Barron Trump at a quiet café, she expected nothing more than a routine shift, but what he left behind, a note and a tip, brought her to tears and sparked a conversation across the nation. The aroma of freshly brewed espresso blended with the faint sweetness of pastries drifted through the air. The slow afternoon lull stretched longer than usual, and the hum of chatter in the café had softened to a near whisper. For Dinah, the shift felt never-ending. Every tick of the clock dragged on, every clatter of cutlery a reminder of how long she had been on her feet. She wiped down the last table by the window, checked her phone. Just one more hour to go. Her rent was due in 2 days, her phone bill overdue, and tips that day had been abysmal, mostly loose change, carelessly tossed onto tables by distracted customers who never looked up from their screens. Dinah exhaled, tightening her ponytail, then grabbed her order pad. Her manager, an older woman with weary eyes, gave her a glance that seemed to say, "Hang in there," but Dinah was already running on autopilot. Then, the bell above the door jingled, snapping her back to attention. A young man walked in, tall, lean, dressed in a simple button-down and slacks, looking effortlessly composed. 2 men followed close behind, blending into the background yet scanning every inch of the café with sharp, observant eyes. This wasn't the kind of place that attracted high-profile guests, certainly not celebrities, let alone someone who appeared to have security detail. For a split second, Dinah froze, her pen hovering over the notepad. Then, her professionalism kicked in and she made her way toward the far corner, where the young man had settled. "Good afternoon," she greeted, mustering her best customer service smile. "Can I get you something to start?" He looked up and for a moment, Dinah nearly forgot what to say. His face was striking, but there was something familiar about him, his features, the quiet composure in his expression. Then, it clicked. Barron Trump. She had seen his face in the news over the years, the son of the former president. Her pulse quickened, but she did what she was trained to do, stay calm. A customer was a customer, no more, no less. "I'll just have a cappuccino and maybe one of those croissants," Barron said softly, his voice polite but reserved. "Absolutely. Anything else?" He shook his head. "That'll be perfect, thank you." His words were simple, but there was something in his tone, kindness, perhaps, or just sincerity. Dinah scribbled down the order, turned toward the counter, and tried to shake the odd flutter in her chest. She wasn't sure if it was nerves or exhaustion, but something about this moment stayed with her. As she prepared the coffee, she couldn't help but glance back at his table. Little did she know, this small interaction was about to turn her entire day, maybe even her week, upside down. The steam from the cappuccino machine hissed as Dinah frothed the milk, her hands moving with practiced precision. Anything to distract from the nervous energy twisting inside her. "Why am I acting like this?" she wondered. Barron Trump of all people. Her gaze flickered back to his table. He sat quietly, his posture straight but at ease. Unlike most patrons, he wasn't scrolling through his phone or typing away on a laptop. Instead, he simply gazed out the window, lost in thought. Occasionally, he took a small sip of water from the glass she had placed earlier. By the time his cappuccino and croissant were ready, Dinah had steadied herself. She balanced the tray carefully and approached his table. "Here you go," she said, gently placing the cup and pastry before him. He looked up, offering a faint but warm smile. "Thank you." "You're welcome. Let me know if you need anything else," she replied, keeping her voice neutral but polite. As she turned to walk away, something stopped her. Maybe it was the feeling of his eyes still on her, curious but not intrusive. Or maybe it was just the weight of exhaustion making her overly aware. Either way, her heartbeat skipped again. Minutes passed. Dinah busied herself clearing empty tables, restocking sugar containers. The cafe had grown quiet again, the only sound a faint melody drifting from the overhead speakers. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed Barron take out a pen. He leaned over the receipt, scribbling something quickly, as if he didn't want anyone to notice. He folded the paper neatly and slid it beneath his empty coffee cup. Then he stood, grabbing his coat and phone. Dinah caught the movement but forced herself to stay focused. "Thank you for coming," she said softly as he passed. Barron turned back slightly, offering another small smile. "Have a good day." His words lingered in the air longer than they should have. Dinah stood still in the middle of the cafe, her gaze following him as he stepped out the door, his security trailing close behind. The bell above the door chimed one last time, then silence settled over the cafe once more. Dana let out a slow breath, picked up her tray, and made her way over to clear the table. The cappuccino cup sat empty, a thin layer of foam clinging to the rim. Beside it, the croissant plate held nothing but a scattering of crumbs. And then, there it was, the receipt. Dana picked it up carefully, the folded paper feeling strangely heavy in her hands. Her first thought was the tip. Maybe it would be generous, but that wouldn't be surprising. Wealthy customers often left large tips, a way to compensate for their lack of engagement. But as she unfolded the receipt, the air in her chest disappeared. At the bottom, beneath the total, was a number, a tip so large it made her stomach drop, 4 crisp digits, and just above it, a handwritten note. Your kindness and hard work don't go unnoticed. My family has been where you are. Stay strong, brighter days are coming. Dana's hands started to shake. She read the words again, this time slower, letting each sentence sink in. Her eyes darted toward the door where Barron had disappeared, and her vision blurred as hot tears welled up. Her knees weakened. She stumbled back into the empty chair across from where he had been sitting, just staring at the note. The tip wasn't what made her chest tighten. It was the words, the weight of empathy, written in ink by someone she never imagined would even notice her existence. For the first time in weeks, maybe even months, Dana felt seen. Tears spilled freely down her face as she absorbed the message, what those words meant, what they acknowledged. But this moment wasn't over, not yet. Someone else would see the note, and Dana's story was about to spread far beyond the walls of this cafe. The sound of the cafe door swinging open jolted Dana from her thoughts. She wiped her tears away quickly with the back of her hand, tucking the note into her apron pocket just as her manager approached. You okay? Her manager asked, eyeing her with concern. What happened? Dana hesitated for a moment, searching for the right words. I'm fine, she said, though her voice wavered slightly. Just a really generous tip. Her manager raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. Generous enough to make you cry? Dana nodded, letting out a shaky laugh. She reached for the folded receipt and held it out. The moment her manager saw the number, she let out a low whistle. No way, who left this? The corner table, Dana murmured. That was Barron Trump. Her manager blinked. The Barron Trump? You're serious? Dana nodded. Yeah. She pulled the note from her pocket. But it's not just the money. She handed it over carefully as if it were something fragile. Her manager read it, and for the first time in months, Dana saw genuine softness in her boss's eyes. Wow, she whispered, handing the note back. That's something else. It really is, Dana agreed, folding the note again like it was some kind of treasure. I don't even know why he wrote it. I didn't do anything special. Her manager studied her for a long moment. Sometimes people just know, Dana. They can see what you're going through, even when you think you're hiding it. You're here every day, working hard, always kind to customers, even the ones who don't deserve it. Maybe he saw that. Dana swallowed hard. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear those words. For months, she had been treading water, taking extra shifts just to make rent, skipping meals to afford her mom's medication. She had stayed kind because it was the one part of herself she refused to let the world take away. And somehow he had seen that. As the minutes passed, a quiet buzz filled the cafe. A couple of coworkers whispered near the pastry display, pointing toward Barron's table. News traveled fast. Before long, one of the baristas approached her. You served him, didn't you? The girl's voice was a mix of excitement and disbelief. What was he like? Was he nice? Dana smiled faintly. Yeah, he was really nice. Man, I'd freak out, the barista laughed. That's so crazy. Dana said nothing more. She didn't want to share the note, didn't want to talk about the tip. Somehow, explaining it felt like turning something sacred into a spectacle. For now, it was hers alone. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Every interaction felt lighter, every step a little easier. When she finally untied her apron and clocked out for the day, the folded note remained safe in her pocket. As Dana made her way toward the subway station, she found herself unfolding the receipt again, staring at the words. "My family has been where you are. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming." She whispered the sentence under her breath, as if saying it aloud would make it real. He didn't have to write that. He didn't have to care, and yet he did. As the train rumbled through the tunnels, Dana closed her eyes and allowed herself to believe, for the first time in a long while, that maybe, just maybe, things would get better. But what she didn't know was that this quiet moment of reflection would soon become much louder than she ever imagined. The note wouldn't remain a secret for long. The next morning the sun had barely begun to rise when her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She groaned, rolling over, blinking at the screen, still hazy with sleep. Dozens of notifications flooded her lock screen. "Why is everyone texting me?" she mumbled, squinting at the messages. "Girl, is this you? You're famous. Is this real?" Her thumb hovered over a message that included a link. A screenshot of the Daily Post headline: "Barron Trump leaves Waitress touching note and massive tip. Internet reacts." Dana shot upright, her heart pounding as she clicked the link. The article recounted the story in full detail. A struggling waitress, an unexpected guest, a note filled with compassion, and a tip that had seemingly changed her life. Attached to the article was a photo, her note, the note, written in Barron's neat, careful handwriting. Dana's hands shook as she scrolled. How did this happen? She opened another message from a coworker. "The guy at table 5 yesterday, someone must have seen the note and snapped a picture. It's everywhere now." Her stomach dropped. Everywhere. She flipped through her social media, and sure enough, there it was. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It had gone viral. Hundreds of comments flooded in. "This is what the world needs more of. Barron Trump seems like such a kind soul. I don't care what anyone says, this is beautiful. Wait, what about the waitress? I hope she's okay." The more Dana read, the more overwhelmed she felt. Strangers debated her life without knowing a single thing about her. She dropped her phone onto the bed, pressing her hands against her face. What do I do now? A deep cough from the next room snapped her back to reality. Her mom. Dana exhaled. She couldn't afford to spiral, not with rent due, groceries to buy, and another long shift ahead. But even as she threw on her uniform and rushed out the door, a weight settled in her stomach. She wasn't ready for this story to belong to the world. When she arrived at the café, everything felt different. As soon as she stepped inside, she could feel their eyes. Her co-workers smiled at her in a way they never had before, proud, almost. A couple of regulars peeked up from their coffee cups, glancing at her like they were trying to confirm if she was the waitress from the article. Her manager greeted her with a grin. "You're a local hero now," she teased. Dana sighed. "I don't feel like one." "You should," her manager gave her a reassuring pat on the shoulder. "What happened yesterday was special. Not everyone gets to be part of something like that." The words were meant to comfort her, but they didn't. Instead, Dana just felt exposed. She wasn't special. She was just a waitress, doing what she always did. And Barron Trump. He hadn't done it for the attention. As she tied her apron and stepped onto the floor, she felt the weight of unseen eyes. Even if they weren't physically there, she could feel them. All morning she dodged questions from coworkers, from customers, forcing a smile when people casually mentioned that nice young man or what he wrote to you. But by lunchtime things escalated. A news crew parked outside the cafe, cameras, microphones, the whole setup. Dana groaned, peeking through the window. Reporters hovered near the entrance, chatting with her manager. Her stomach twisted when one of them spotted her, offering a polite wave. "You're the talk of the town," a coworker whispered. "Lucky me," Dana muttered under her breath. She ducked behind the counter, pulling out her phone. Headlines, comments, thousands of them. That note probably saved her life. This is a lesson in kindness. Small gestures mean everything. More stories like this, please? Beneath the chaos, she felt the faintest flicker of something unexpected. Hope. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about kindness, about people remembering that small acts could still make a big difference. But Dana still had a decision to make, and it would determine how this story ended. By the time her shift ended, the cafe felt impossibly small, suffocating under the weight of attention. She ducked out the back door, avoiding the reporters still lingering outside. The moment her sneakers hit the pavement, she exhaled sharply, as if shaking off the invisible weight of their stares. The walk home felt different, the streets unfamiliar, as if the world had tilted just slightly out of place. Dana clutched her bag, the note still safely tucked inside. Her phone buzzed. A new message. "Dana, they want you on TV, morning show, call me." It was her manager. Dana stopped in her tracks, feet planted on the sidewalk. The thought made her uneasy. Go on television? Tell her story? No, that wasn't her. She didn't want her face broadcasted everywhere. But wouldn't it be nice to explain? A small voice inside her whispered. To tell the world it was never about the money or fame, that kindness still mattered. Dana stared at her phone for a long moment before shoving it back into her bag. Her answer would have to wait. At home, Dana found her mother settled into her recliner, flipping through TV channels. Then, a familiar voice filled the room. A simple note left by Barron for a hard-working waitress is melting hearts across the country. Dana froze in the doorway. On the screen, a blurred image of the receipt appeared. Her note. The headline read, "A quiet act of generosity sparks national conversation." Her mother looked up, coughing lightly. "That's you, isn't it?" Dana sighed, dropping her bag. "Yeah, Mom, that's me." Her mother's gaze softened as she motioned for Dana to sit beside her. "It's a good thing, people need stories like this." "I didn't ask for it," Dana muttered, folding her arms. Her mom smiled gently. "Sometimes the good things find you when you're not looking for them." She reached over and took Dana's hand. "What he wrote, that was special, and people are talking about it because they need to believe there's still kindness in the world. You're part of that now." Dana swallowed hard. It feels too big for me, Mom. Like, I don't deserve it." Her mom shook her head. "Don't say that. You work yourself to the bone every day to keep us afloat. You're kind to people even when you're exhausted. That's who you are, Dana. And someone saw that, someone reminded you that you matter." Dana's eyes welled with fresh tears. This time, she let them fall. Her mom was right. The note wasn't just about her. It was about hope. It was proof that small gestures still had meaning, that kindness still carried weight. That night, as Dana lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her phone buzzed again. More people, more questions, more noise. But beneath it all, the note sat tucked under her pillow, a tangible reminder that someone, somewhere, had truly seen her. For once, Dana didn't feel invisible. The next morning, she made a choice. She called her manager. "Tell the morning show, I'll do it," she said softly. Her manager nearly dropped the phone. "Are you sure?" "Yes, but I'm not going to talk about the money. I want to talk about the note, about kindness. That's all." The interview was simple. Dana sat on the couch, hands folded nervously in her lap, as the host leaned forward. "Dana, you've been in the spotlight these past few days because of something very unexpected, a note and a tip from Barron Trump. Can you tell us how it felt when you first read it?" Dana hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Honestly, it caught me off guard. It wasn't about the money. It was what he wrote. I've been struggling, and those words meant more than I can explain." The host nodded. The note said, "Your kindness and hard work don't go unnoticed. My family has been where you are. Stay strong. Brighter days are coming." What do you think he meant by that? Dana glanced at the camera. Suddenly, it didn't feel like she was speaking to just the host. It felt like she was speaking to every person watching. "I think he meant that we all go through hardships, no matter who we are, no matter where we come from. And sometimes When you're at your lowest, the smallest act of kindness can change everything. It reminds you that someone sees you, that you're not alone. For a moment, the studio fell silent. The weight of her words hung in the air. Then, the host smiled warmly. "That's a beautiful message, Dana. Is there anything you'd like to say to Barron, if he's watching?" Dana's voice wavered slightly, but she managed a small smile. "Just thank you. Not for the money, but for seeing me. For reminding me to hold on to hope. You made more of a difference than you know." When the interview aired, Dana didn't check her phone. She didn't read the comments. She didn't scroll through headlines. Instead, she tied on her apron the next morning and went back to work, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. The cafe was busier than ever. Customers smiled at her differently now, not because they knew her story, but because she felt seen. People left kind notes on napkins, they tipped a little extra, they said thank you, and meant it. Dana kept Barron's note tucked inside her wallet, where it would stay for years to come. A reminder that small gestures matter. That you never know how much hope a few simple words can bring. Because sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change someone's life. Maybe it's a kind word, a helping hand, or just reminding someone that they matter. Who can you lift up today? Brighter days are coming for all of us. Sometimes we just need a reminder.